Welcome, Dungeon Plunger Union members, to another episode of solo play on the YouTubes. Today we're going to continue the Ella's Tale, our Shadowdark character, and right now she is in our own little version of the Neverwinter Wood. When we had started in the last session, she had essentially, she was doing some of her surgery and medical work. We haven't exactly established exactly what it was that she was doing, but an accident occurred and the person died and she fled the village rather quickly. Ella is a human living in a elven village in the Neverwinter Wood, and so she decided to flee, whether it was out of shame, embarrassment, or fear for her actual life. It's not sure, but she decided to find shelter along with her wolf companion Ice, and she, along the way, stumbled into what appeared to be some kind of a secret meeting between a group of elves led by a shaman named Rufus, also the elven shaman in the village, and a tribe of lizard folk who she probably isn't aware are representing a dragon that lives within Neverwinter. Fleeing the meeting after being interrogated by Rufus, she was shot by a member of the elven party with a poisoned arrow, which thankfully, after her wolf companion named Ice managed to lure away the elves, Ella was able to find some herbs and stuff in the woods to make a poultice and bandage up herself and negate the further detrimental effects of the poison. So now Ella is alone in the woods, and this is where we find her. She's afraid, she's hurt, and she's worried about whether or not her wolf companion will ever be coming back. She hopes that the elves weren't able to kill it while it was luring them away to save her life. But in the meantime, she realizes that she can't stay out here in the woods. It's getting dark, and she needs to find shelter. Now, she knew that somewhere out here was a elven scout post, sort of like a little tree fort or cave system or something, where she would be able to find stores of food and shelter and be able to at least spend the night and figure out what she's going to do. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to navigate through the woods and see what we see. Let's take a look at the Shadowdark book and see what it says in terms of going through the woods and doing overland hex travel. So, each time the characters move into an empty hex, we're going to roll on the new hex table. So, but we already know what the hex terrain is because we're in the woods. So we don't really need to do that. But what we do need to do is then for each hex, roll on a d6, and on a 1, The hex has 1 point of interest, and if you roll a cataclysm, use the table below. Well, that doesn't sound so good. All right, so let's move into this hex over here as Ella continues along, and we're just gonna roll on our d6 here, and we get a 5. 5 tells us, so because we didn't get a 1, there's nothing, no actual point of interest, which is kind of boring, to be honest with you. You know what? How about we'll skip that and we'll actually roll the d20 just so that we can see what kind of cool stuff is. Now, some of you might be like, yo, Dungeon Plunger, you're cheating, bro. You're just making up stuff as you go along. And I mean, this is sort of where I'm at when it comes to solo play. On the one hand, it's important for us to follow rules, but at the same time, you know, I think that it's important to go with your gut and what you think that the story needs. And so the number one rule in my book of solo play is do whatever feels right. All right. So let's give it a little bit of a roll here. See what we get. And we got a 12. So 12 is a ravine. And now we'll find out what the development is. So this is a cool thing about this book. It has a lot of really nice tables in it. All right, 11. Under siege by a warband. Interesting. So we have 2 parties that are in this ravine, and Ella is sort of going through the woods. The terrain is sort of like rocky, and it's coming out into sort of like a clearing where there's this massive rift in the forest, leading to a large sort of trench, ravine, rocky, ditch. And she can hear the sounds of noise coming from close to where she's exiting the woods. So she goes and she takes a look, and she's like, what is going on? Now, the question is, so we know that there's a warband, which would imply that there's at least one humanoid force, and either another humanoid force, or maybe some sort of like predator or monstrous force. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to roll the bones. And just in case for some reason you didn't see the last video, these are the bones from the Tale of Argosa Kickstarter. And when I saw this was the big reason, aside from the fact that that's such a cool game. And honestly, I think at some point I'm going to do a solo with that game. But since for the solo RPG book club that I'm in right now, we are doing Shadowdark, I really wanted to get Shadowdark to the table, and so that I had a little bit to share with the group. So we're going to roll the bones, and we're going to see. So the question is the other warband, or is the other force humanoid, or so is it humanoid? So that is a definite yes. So we can tell when we get these. This means yes. This means whoop, whoop. Can you see that now? Can you see now? How about now? Now. Yeah, so that means no. And this means yes. And then this means super yes, the hammer of judgment. and this means no. And this essentially supersedes whatever these dice say, the white ones, and cancel them out. And this is essentially telling us if it's a positive or a negative event. So positive, negative. And according, just do a little double check here on my paper with all this information on it. Yeah, so that's called the fortune die. And essentially, if it is positive, it's a fortune, and if it's skull, it's a misfortune. So this is somehow unfortunate. So now let's see, can we figure out what these two factions are that are dealing with each other? The first thing that comes to my mind is that the warband are orcs. And for some reason, I have it in my mind that the other faction might be some miners or perhaps hunters. So let's see. Is the Under Siege faction miners? So that is a definite no. So I'm going to say that these guys are probably some other tribe of monster. So let's see what we can find that would make sense. I'm wondering, maybe one side is the lizard folk and the other side is orcs. And that's probably why it's a super negative. That's why we had the misfortune. So that it's basically two really hostile forces. And I think that these, right now, the orcs are attacking. And I think the question is can she manage to get by these guys without getting dragged into their fight? So I think this is going to be probably like a difficult check for her to make. So we're going to say that she needs to make a stealth check, and it's going to be a dexterity check, DC 15. So let's see what we get here. And she succeeds with a 20. So Ella manages to sneak by very quietly, moving. She's trying to take cover from trees to trees, rock to rock. And at one point she thinks, she sees one of the orcs kind of looking back in her direction, and she's worried, like, oh my gosh, they've seen me. But somehow she managed to stay hidden long enough, and she moves on. Eventually, let's see. We're going to say that she needs to make a wisdom check. She's probably not 100% sure where this place is. So she needs to make a DC 15 wisdom check to sort of get her bearings, because now this ravine has put her off her game. And, she was pretty sure that if she just continued heading east, that she was going to find it. But now with having to do the whole, avoiding the orcs and the lizard folk fighting in the ravine, she's completely lost at this point. Oh, look at that. So again, somehow the fate is with her, and she manages to make it to this safe house. Now, my initial idea was that this was probably some sort of cave system that she was going to. But it just feels a lot more elvish. If perhaps she was going to like a treehouse or something like that. So I'm going to say that she's approached the treehouse. But the question is the treehouse occupied? I don't know. Actually, let's see what the deck of signs says. I probably should have used these during the... I probably should have used the deck of signs during the encounter at the ravine. It would have been a lot better to like come up with some idea of what exactly she was up against. Really need to learn how to use these resources better. But you know what? That's how we learn. So, what we're going to do here, shuffle these suckers up. And let's see now. Okay, so flip 2 of these. So first, all right. I don't know if you can see it. The light is kind of shiny on them. So the first one we got here is Illusion, Deceiving, Charmed, Mischief, Cultist, Preaching, Revered, Holy. So this makes me think that perhaps some fey creatures have come to this treehouse, and they are so they are using illusions to sort of entertain themselves, and perhaps this is some sort of a holy day for them. So maybe these illusions that they're doing are part of some sort of fey ritual. So Ella approaches the treehouse, and as she does, she hears the sounds of music, tinkling sounds, laughter, almost childlike, strangely enchanting. And off in the distance, she can see sparkling lights and shapes of almost like butterflies and strange swirls of some kind of energy, or it's very, very bizarre. Maybe almost like floating, twinkling kind of lights that drift in sort of like a circle, or almost like a whirlwindy cone, like a tornado, but gentle. And so she approaches, but I'm thinking that these fae are probably pretty attuned to their environment and don't probably appreciate having their environment invaded. So I'm thinking that she's going to have to roll disadvantage on a stealth check, DC 15, to see if she can actually approach this place. And you know what? Thinking about it now, at this point, she's been chased by elves that want to kill her. She's been had to avoid orc warbands, fighting with lizardmen, and at this point, she's struck with grief from missing her companion, and now she's just exhausted, and she kind of just doesn't care anymore. So she approaches, and eventually this fairy-like creature with dragonfly wings on her back and floating a couple feet off the ground, kind of zipping around, approaches her, and in a very high-pitched voice says, "Hello there, Ella. What brings you here, my dear? And Ella is kind of taken aback by this. How does this person know who she is? Is this real? Is she just exhausted? Did she not actually stop the poison? And the fairy says to her, she's like, be not afraid, Ella. She's like, long have we watched you. And now she's really freaked out because, let's face it, if anybody ever tells you that they're watching you, I mean, that's pretty creepy. So she's like, okay, well, what's your name? And so the fairy tells her, let's roll a die here. Got a D10. So this time I was smart and I got a list of names to choose from. So we'll roll this. All right, we got a 9. So she says, my name is Vesprin. All right, so let's put this down here. Vesprin. She's like, you have a destiny to fulfill. We've been watching you a long time. Your time with the elves is not quite finished, but the fate of Neverwinter Wood lies in your hands. You should enter this treehouse and rest. You've had a long journey, and you are injured. I don't know about you, but if somebody said to me to like, just don't worry about it. We've been watching you for a long time. Maybe you should just go to sleep and hang out in this little treehouse in the middle of the woods. Yeah, that would probably freak me out, dude. So she's like, do you really expect me to be, Ella's like, do you really expect me to be able to sleep here and, you know, not be worried about being murdered? And she's like, I can understand. There's much to be afraid of. But there are other things that live in this wood that are much more dangerous than us. Please, come inside, rest, eat, rejuvenate yourself. There's somebody here who's excited to see you. At this point, exhausted, tired, and a little bit intrigued, Ella decides that she's going to go into the treehouse. She approaches the tree, and normally you wouldn't be able to tell that this treehouse exists here because the elves have crafted it almost as if it's a living part of the tree, hidden from casual view. And suddenly a little kind of rope ladder plops down from the sky, from the beneath the boughs of the tree, and kind of like flip-flops, you know, beckoning her to climb up. So she climbs up the ladder, and as she does so, she feels herself coming into a almost womb-like cozy shelter. There are candles lit, burning, a smell of incense, and a wooden table, well crafted, full of food, mostly fruit, wine, cheeses, berries of all varieties, some nuts, and as she does, there's movement in the room, and she looks across, and from the shadows, she hears almost like a little whiny kind of, that's a really horrible sound. Remind me never to do that again. But She looks, and there, lifting his head, is Ice. And Ella's heart leaps with joy as she rushes over and gives him a hug, and he nuzzles his head against her neck, and the two are reunited. As she touches him, he kind of winces in pain, and she can see that he had taken some wounds from the elves in his attempt to lure them away, but some sort of magical healing has begun working on his wounds, and they are slowly being knitted together. And with that, Ella partakes of the feast, gorging herself on the food to the point of where she feels sleep come over her. She pulls up a nearby chair and blanket. Ice moves up beside her, and the two of them fall asleep. And that's where we'll leave it. Till next time in Ella's Tale. Thank you very much for watching this week. I really appreciate it. Please do all the things that you would do for a YouTube video. You know, the likes, the comments, tell all your friends about it, you know, because that's what you're supposed to do. But in all honesty, I would really appreciate it. And I just, more than anything, appreciate you taking the time to watch this video in the first place. So thank you very much. Plungers up. And I will see you next time on the Dungeon Plunger solo YouTube channel. Take care and good night.